there is a ball. Yeah, yeah, like prep to make the wounded whole. There is a ball. Yeah, yeah, like prep to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and I think my work's in vain. But then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There is a ball in Gilead like prep to make the wounded whole. There is a ball in Gilead like prep to heal the sin-sick soul. Oh, yeah. What's up? Got a little faith, and welcome to the Fagnostic Podcast. I'm your hostess, not your Moses, Matt Hayes. Today's guest, you're going to know, but not by the first name I give you. His name's Florian Klein, better known to some or most of you as Hans Berlin. He's an adult film star who has used his incredible platform to advocate and educate the masses around the idea of U equals U, which means undetectable equals untransmittable. Meaning once you're undetectable HIV positive, you cannot transmit it to somebody else. And that's a very important accomplishment for our community. And he's going to talk about all the things he does to advocate for that platform. Also, his experience as a friend, as a mentor, as an activist, as a caregiver. He's written a musical called Shooting Star the Musical, played in LA years ago. This man is a man of so many talents. He is so beautiful and so kind and so present in this space of humanity. And I'm just so happy that you get to hear our conversation today. He's a gem of a man. So welcome to the show, Florian Klein and Hans Berlin.
Okay, Florian, I'm so happy to talk to you. And most people are going to know you as Hans Berlin. That's how I knew you first as well. But as I followed you over the years, I knew you as Florian. The work that you're doing is so incredibly important and amazing. I'm in awe of how you've used your platform to really create space for queer people to learn more about themselves, to learn more about the spectrum of sexuality. I'm so eager to talk to you and get to hear your journey. So I'm really thankful that you're here with us. But I'm very, very happy to be here. My first question, I always ask people, I have two questions. One is to identify your pronouns so we know how to address. And then also the second question is, what do you believe in?
Well, first of all, thank you that I can be here. If you could see me now, I'm blushing because that was really sweet what you said. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and my pronouns are he, him, and I believe in the human race.
Love that. And that's my big thing that I always preach, whether I'm speaking at a conference or on this show, is always my goal is to create space for others so that they can then create space for other people. And I think that's how we fix this place, because I really do believe that we're in a dire situation with our species. And I genuinely believe that it's up to queer people, LGBTQ people who've had to circumvent the spectrum of construct and existence in order to thrive. And I think that our community is going to be who saves our species. But that's just my opinion on things. So tell me, so I know you're German. You grew up in the south of Germany, as you describe it, in the hills of the sound of music. So tell me about what your upbringing was and how you got to participate in American entertainment and content creation, and then how you got to your platform of I'm going to mess it up now, and I just had it on my brain, but it's Hans Helps, right?
Helps. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So give me just the rundown from the beginning.
Yes. And I hope that our connection is going to stay stable because I'm coming to you from Berlin, Germany right now. So let's hope everything's going to be stable. But yes, I grew up in the what is it? Where the hills are alive with the sound of music. That's what it's called in the movie, which actually I didn't know the movie until I came to the States, because it's not a really great depiction of our culture, even though I'm from the southern part of Germany, not Austria. Austria, but Bavaria, the most southern state, and Austria and Hungary were a kingdom once, so we're very similar. And
Hmm.
if you look in at the movie, it was definitely at that time in Hollywood where they showed other cultures, but basically with an American touch. So yes, it's not very realistic, and of course, because of the past of of my country, it was a movie that, of course, was not. I think even the Austrians were not very happy about it. But
Really?
anyways, now I love it because it's gay culture. Yes,
Yes, it is
yeah.
exactly. There's
In
also, do you
Austria,
know?
Germany, like if you Google it, it was not a big success there.
Do you remember the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so it takes place in a fictional land called Bulgaria, which I think is probably it's meant to represent southern Germany, and it's you know in its very uh, uh, animated depiction of what
Gay.
life there is like. Yeah, and gay. Yeah, exactly. But Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is one of my favorite films of all time. But I love knowing that tidbit about Sound of Music and how it doesn't translate as well in a place that to me it really depicts beautifully. It's so fascinating.
Well, I've never realized that, but when you watch the movie, the way that the kids eat at the table, we don't do that in Germany. We have the fork in the left hand, we cut with the right hand, and then we just put the food in our mouth with the left hand. And in the scene where they're eating, when they're sitting at the dinner table, they're switching fork and knives like the American way, that they put food in their mouth with the right hand with
Huh?
the fork. So little things
Yeah.
like that. And by the way, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was also filmed in my hood, because that castle where they fly over and where some of the scenes take place
Huh?
is Neuschwanstein, New Swanstein, which was built by our one of our last kings who happened to be gay. That's why that castle looks
Are you
very
kidding?
gay. Yeah, King Ludwig. There's
Oh.
also books and plays about him. Yeah.
Oh, I have to look him up. King Ludwig. Okay, cool. That's such good intel. I feel so educated now. So how old were you
Yeah, and
when
the
you went
interesting thing about
to Berlin then?
that sorry, the interesting
Oh, go
thing
ahead.
about that castle is also that that it was built when there was already photography. Like it looks like a fairy tale castle. It looks like an old
Hmm.
castle, but there's actually photographies of it being built in the early 1800s, or no, 18 early 1900s. It was 1800 something that
Okay.
it was built. So that it's not as old as it looks like, because our king was in love with Richard Wagner, the composer, and
Yeah.
who was straight. He took all the money, but he never really got intimate, I guess, with our king. And our king then died of he drowned in a lake, and we still don't know if it was suicide, if it was murder, or an accident. Because they impeached him at some point because he spent
What?
all the money building all of these elaborate castles. He built like an alpine version of Versailles in the middle of the Alps. And now those castles are huge tourist attractions. Like the state of Bavaria is making a lot of money, but back then they almost went bankrupt, and that's why they impeached him and put him into an asylum at Lake Starnberg, where, as I said, he drowned with his doctor. And to this day, they don't know if it was murder, suicide, or just an
Oh.
accident.
But
Yes.
also
Yeah.
the story of like
Yeah.
an impeached leader who gets put into an asylum and then drowns. Just like,
Yes.
I wonder if history repeats itself.
Okay.
Uh, no,
So
my
I'm not allowed
one of
to
my good
say
friends.
anything to that.
One of my really good friends has her master's degree. Actually, I think no, she's finishing her PhD thesis, and I'm going to mess this up. She's going to kill me, but it's something to do with like how German court culture informed the arts, and then like I guess their perception on the world stage. And so I bet she knows of that story, and I cannot wait to like impress her with my German knowledge. So thank you so much for telling me that story. I'm like, I cannot wait to go down the rabbit hole about that. But a
And
100 years
to
later, when
connect,
you
yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like to connect it to my story, and I know we have like a time delay. I hope that you can edit it,
it is
everything.
okay.
Um, but to connect it to my story is, of course, when I grew up, we didn't talk about the king being gay. We
Uh-huh.
just talked about the king being verrückt, crazy. Yeah, like one of those kings who just went crazy because of too much inbreeding and whatever. And just later they made a musical about his life where he's actually kissing a man, and just later they addressed his homosexuality more. But back then, when I was a kid, we didn't talk about it because I was born and raised in this. I was born and raised in the 70s and 80s. I'm going to be 54 this year. So
Amazing.
growing up in a small town in the southern part of Germany was a little bit like growing up in the south of the United States.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's Catholic, it's religious, it's conservative. Nobody believes the world is 10,000 years old, like some people in the United States believe, like the real Christians. I feel like
Uh-huh.
even if we're to name another musical, Fiddler on the Roof, when they say, "Why do we do this?" Oh, it's tradition. I think that's how I grew up. It was like the whole religious thing was just tradition and not so much brainwashing, and you have to be that way. So being gay was not, or the feelings of the shame that came with having gay feelings as a child, homosexual feelings as a child, as a teenager, when we did discover our sexuality, was not so much religion. It was about, oh my God, what the neighbors are going to say. And
Yep.
that was also the first reaction when I told my mom, who was a helicopter mom back then, when the term helicopter mom, is that a
Mm-hmm.
German term or do you use that too?
No, we use it. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So she was, even when they didn't talk about helicopter moms back then, because it wasn't a thing, my mom was that. Um, but then when I told her when I was 18 and I said, I know now I'm different. I think I'm homosexual. Ich bin schwul, which is the German way of saying it. And she was like, uh, hopefully the neighbors are not going to find out. Um, that was her first reaction. And then that was when I was 18. Then I thought I was bisexual for 2 more years until I was 20. And I met my first gay friends in Munich, in the next big city. And that's when I came out to her again. And then I told my dad, and um, my dad was like, "Oh, you're our son. Why should we love you any less because of that?" And since that, I have a really great relationship with my parents. And yes, they also know about my other career. They also know about me being HIV positive, and they're proud of me. They love me, and they see me for the human being that I am.
Amazing, as it should be. That should not be
Yes.
the exception story. That should be just normal. And I believe that we are getting there little by little. I have to believe that we're getting there. Otherwise, it's hard to wake up in the morning. But can we
Yeah.
talk about, because the HIV education is such an important part of your existence as Heinz now, in educating the masses and empowering people to live thriving lives in the midst of stigma. So can you talk about how you got to that point? And if it, whatever, detours in the story you want to take, obviously, but I'd love to hear how all of that got you to be, someone who is not only representing an entire community, but also being produced by major pharmaceutical companies to help educate people.
Well, I mean, one of the most important factors was that I became positive in 2001. Um, as I said, I came out fully in 1992 into a world of fear and condoms.
Yeah.
Our AIDS education was really great in Germany. I really can say that I'd never had sex without a condom, only when I was in relationships. And no, I did not get infected by my partner who was cheating. We had an opened relationship. We used condoms when we played with others. And in the summer of '99, I got really sick and I had like a summer cold. Um,
Yeah.
um, and nobody tested me because we think that is when I, what is it, zero converted, when I got the virus.
Like the
My
incubation
boyfriend and I,
period.
then
Yeah.
yeah, my boyfriend and I, like, we split up then within those 2 years until I found out he was negative for some reason. So I guess a miracle. And I don't know, as I said, how I got it, but I just think like a condom broke or whatever. And I never felt any, oh my God, I hate that person who gave it to me, that awful person. Um, I and I just talked to my therapist about that. Um, Part of, or let's say it this way, with being 54, all these demons from the past, they're coming back. If you think that
Really?
that you're okay when you get older, no, you really have to take care of your mental health. Like, that's my advice for everyone who's getting older. I think especially queer people, we're walking around with that burden that we lived different lives and we grew up differently. And I want to say, I I I feel the same way that you said before, that it's getting better. But then we have countries like Florida. I mean, states like Florida. We even have countries like this country, Germany, where I am right now, where gay bashing is a thing again. And
Yeah.
it's getting better. We have to say it's getting better, but we still have to fight for it to get better
Yeah,
and
and also,
stay
it's
better.
interesting because you just mentioned how, and don't lose your train of thought, Hayes. You got this. There's, I don't think that there would be so many evil forces against our community right now if it were not for the fact that people saw us as thriving and we're intimidated by that, because it's not just
Yeah,
we're not just carrying the burden of our own existence and having to figure out who we are in a very heteronormative binary world. We're also having to carry the burden of people that don't know how to do the work to find their own happiness. So they have to project their own issues onto us, to the point of
yeah,
weaponizing the word happy. That's, I mean, gay is happy, and people are weaponizing
yes,
that word against us as a bad thing. And it's like, oh no,
yeah,
you just don't have it figured out yet, and you're putting it on me. But don't worry, I got this. And that's why, again, I say that I think our community is going to be what saves the world, because we have to circumvent every issue thrown at us from the minute we're born into this world.
yeah,
And that's exactly what you're doing, Florian. Like, I'm so in awe of how you've used that circumstance to then inform your work in adult entertainment, or in, hosting, or even
yeah,
in entertainment as a whole. Like, I want to get to talking about your musical. So when you became positive,
yeah.
what then was the journey from there to where you are now? I know that's a big leap, but what was it
Well,
like?
yeah, and what I want to just say, like, connect with that, what I said before, was that when I lived gay as a kid, and I always thought, I'm not stealing, I'm not a bad person, but they don't like me, the kids in my school in my small town, so it must be
Yeah.
my fault. So I feel like this whole thing, it must be my fault. So when I became HIV positive, it was also like, it is my fault. I didn't protect myself enough, and I think that's one of the feelings that a lot of people who become positive have to deal with. And that's why my suggestion is always, either, like, no, not either, find a group of people, preferably people that also just seroconverted, just became positive, and a group that you can talk to, and see that you can get therapy, and talk about it. Because even nowadays, there's so many people that sometimes, like, come to me and say, hey, nobody knows I'm positive. I'm positive too. I don't want my mom, I don't want my friends to know. I'm afraid that I'm going to be rejected. So it is still a thing, and for some people, it's
Oh my
it's
God,
it's
yeah.
it's a bad thing. For me, it was also a really great therapist that I had when I lived in LA, because 2002 I moved to New York to study acting, and then I moved to LA to become the German Brad Pitt. That didn't really work
Yes.
out too well. So, like, a real good actor in LA, I was doing a lot of waiting tables and catering and all of that, and of course, I had a
Sure.
therapist, and that therapist, Michael Liberatore, who unfortunately since then died of pancreatic cancer, and he helped me to do a 180, to not hide the fact that I was positive, but to actually openly talk about it. And then PrEP came along, the pre-exposure prophylaxis. I don't know if you have to explain this, or do you want to talk about it to your
I like to
listeners?
speak to the dumbest person in the room, and usually that's me. So for the uninitiated, tell us what PrEP is. Yes.
PrEP is basically a pill that saves you from getting HIV, because it stops the virus from docking. PrEP was Truvada, or it still is Truvada. I mean, there's generic versions now, and Truvada has always been a part of HIV medication. And then at some point they found out if we just give people Truvada, it stops them from becoming HIV positive, because it said it stops the virus from docking. And in 2013, it came to the US market, to the North American market, and then in Germany, we just had it since 2019, that we get it through our health insurance. Before that, like people had to pay. Yeah, people had to pay for it. It was like $1,000 if you wanted to have it. So they had some generic versions of it, but yeah, it's an interesting story. But that also means we did not just have the old-fashioned condom, which is still a thing. People don't forget there's still a condom. That's
Sure.
that saves that not saves you, how do you say, protects you. And then we have PrEP, and then we also found out through the Swiss study in 2008, where they had and I always mess up that word, the if a partner is positive and the other one is negative, it is a discordant something. I always mess up this word, but there's a word for if there's a couple and one of them is positive, HIV positive, the other one is negative. And there was a theory before that when you take your HIV medication, you become undetectable. That means there's so very little virus in your blood that you can't really detect it anymore. And where there's no virus, there's no transmission. So that was a theory. And in 2008 in Switzerland, they had, I think, hundreds of couples having sex many, many times. And since that day, there has not been a transmission from someone who's undetectable. Later, they also did the study with gay couples and the same result. And also important for straight couples is that, like, let's say the man is positive, the woman is negative, and they want to have a baby, that when the man takes his medication regularly and becomes undetectable, they can have sex, they can have a baby, and he doesn't infect the woman, and vice versa. If the woman is positive, she would also not give the virus to the child. So they can have babies. She cannot give HIV through the mother's milk. It's all because they're taking the medication. And of course, we always get asked, how do I know if you take any medication? And I say, F you, I want to live. That is the reason why I'm taking the medication, because without the medication, I would be dead. And millions of examples showed us, if you don't take your medication, if you don't have access to medication, if back then when this medication wasn't around, people were dying. And I want to live. I choose life. So I take my medication, one pill each day, no side effects. And one of the nice little side effects is that I can't transmit HIV to anyone. So that also helped me then to live an open life and be more open about HIV. And I realized as a queer person, as a gay man, that living in the closet doesn't matter if it's being gay, doing porn, or being HIV positive. The more you have to hide in your life, the more stress it puts on you. And I've learned that as a 180 and just being open, it just made my life so much happier. Gay.
Hell yes. And you can see it in your face. You see it in your eyes, Florian. Like, you've got such a light about you. And I know that this conversation is not about family building, but what you were saying about undetectable men who are positive but undetectable, how they can have, sex and procreate without fear of transmission. I do a lot of work in family building for LGBTQ people. So I basically connect them with resources they need to, like, have a child through surrogacy. And one of the fascinating things that I learned early on in that part of my career was that there's a concept called sperm washing, where if you have a gay man who wants to have a child, they actually I'm gonna get the science part so bad, so nobody can quote me on this, but essentially it's a concept where the sperm is separated from the virus itself, and so they can basically, like, skim the virus off the sperm and then use that sperm, which is not infected, to mix with an egg donor to create embryos, and then they obviously test lots of like contracts and other verbiages that make sure all parties are informed, educated, and aware of the risks. But it's a fascinating time that we get to live in as gay men. To have, I think, our generation. And I'm several years younger than you are, but I think like for us, we're in this kind of window where we came in at the end of the crisis, and we saw like the flourishment of getting to like live in a post HIV world in a sense. Not that it's gone, but like that that 80s, early 90s era of when it was just a death sentence is no longer, if you have access. And I know that there's still countries where it's difficult, and I'm sure you
Yeah.
can talk to that and what countries are doing, because I think it's weaponized in places where people don't want gay people to exist, and so they're not going to be doing anything on the federal front to increase access to these life-saving medications, which is unfortunate. But I feel very lucky to be in the States where we have access to things like Mr. And Desert AIDS Project out here in Palm Springs, and other organizations that make sure we can thrive, whether from being on PrEP or being on treatment.
Yeah. By the way, the sperm washing, I'd be interested because, as I said, with the medication, it is undetectable. So they need to find it to wash it, to separate it. So
I think
I
it's
don't know if
an
it's like to
extra
the modern
precaution.
standards. Yeah. Because, as I said, like in the natural way of ein Ei befruchten, how do you say that in English, of putting sperm on an egg? The natural way of how it happens. As I said, someone who is undetectable cannot can
Right.
have sex with his woman and not give it to her. Yeah. So I don't know, like with the donors, it's like yeah, we'll do some research on that because it sounds
And it may
interesting.
be even an outdated concept, but just an extra precaution now. So
Yeah.
that way they can, it's like we've done this, this, and this to make sure that the surrogate is protected. It could be something from that stance. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, on the
But
other
all
hand,
that to
it's like, of
say,
course, I still cannot donate blood. I mean, that's one of the things
I
that
know.
still, um, yeah, because in that
And
case, I mean,
that
with the
matters.
blood, there's more virus in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, that's one of my soapboxes is blood donation for gay men, because I did during COVID, I was part of a study through the FDA that basically I was just getting
Yeah.
tested all the time and giving blood for them to document my health, in order to allow for gay men to donate blood. And so now you can, as a gay man, donate blood, but you cannot be on PrEP, and you also cannot have had unprotected sex, or you cannot have had gay sex in, I think, the past 3 months. But to me, it's like
Yeah.
you're telling someone that if they're doing what it takes to protect themselves by being on PrEP, and you don't want their blood, like that's exactly whose blood you want, because that person is doing everything they can to protect themselves. It makes no sense, but it's still just as part of the system that is not in our favor.
Well, I also don't understand that because you would think that whatever blood is being donated will be checked anyways for
It
HIV.
is. It
So
is.
just
It
to
is. Yes.
exclude a whole group, because that makes it sound like, oh, we just donate blood and then it's just given to a person that needs blood. I mean,
I
I
know.
would hope that everything's tested now and not like back in the days where some people
I know.
actually got it because of a blood transmission.
I know.
By the way, also
But
one of
all
the
this
things
just
that is really interesting. Sorry.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, because you said before also with countries we being gay is not okay and they might not even like have access to medication. Worldwide, AIDS is a female problem. Only in
Hmm.
the Western countries, it's like a gay disease, as they used to call it. But worldwide, and I would
Yeah.
think it's probably because of Africa, it is a female problem,
Yeah.
and that is like every once in a while I get some bad words about like on Instagram I had some comments of like, okay, yeah, of course you're positive, that's what you get through butt sex. And I said, well, but as I said, don't be too judgmental. It's only in our part of the world it is gays that predominantly are getting it.
Yeah.
But in other parts of the world it's women. So what do you say to them with your
I
smartness?
know.
And of
Well,
course
and
there was like
I
another bad
you
thing that they said.
Do you see? Yes, and because it's been weaponized, and I think it's because of
Yeah.
this religion right here. Do you see that movie? That's a movie that I made back in 2019. It's called Cognitive, and it's about a little boy that thinks he has AIDS because of what he hears at church. And so this little boy,
Yeah.
and it's based on my true story. I thought I had AIDS when I was eight
I
years
think I
old
saw that
because
one.
oh, good. It's run the festival circuit like the one that you did with Troy, which we're also
Yeah.
going to get to because I love how your career just it encapsulates so many aspects of creation. But it's the thing I'm most proud of because it helped heal me. Those kids are still in those pews. Those kids are
Yeah.
still being told that AIDS or HIV is God's punishment for being different, and they're
Yeah.
grooming kids like that. And so that's why I'm so vocal about educating yourself about whether you're on PrEP or on treatment. And also, just like you just said, you look at it from outside the American perspective, and you see that it's not what it's presented to be, which is God's punishment. It's
Yeah.
something much
See,
larger.
when AIDS came to Germany, we had Cardinal Ratzinger, who said it's not God's punishment, it's nature fighting back. Like that's what he said about AIDS. I don't know if you know Cardinal Ratzinger, because
No.
several years later he became Pope Benedict. I don't know how many, but he became Pope Benedict. He became the German Pope. And that was always been a friend of the queer community. I'm being sarcastic here.
It's yeah, I got that read loud and clear. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
How funny. So again, like I'm just so thankful for your work in providing the empowerment and education that you have through your platform. You equals you, and I don't even know if we quoted that, but undetectable equals untransmittable. That's correct? What it is, right?
Good now, correct. So as I said,
Yeah.
because I take my medication regularly, which is a normal thing to do for someone who's HIV positive. Nowadays, if someone finds out that they're HIV positive, and that also means get tested, and then if you really catch it, it is always better to live a life where you don't have to take any medication. If you don't have
Sure.
diabetes or whatever. Same thing with HIV. It's almost like a chronic disease now. It feels like a chronic disease, even though I don't like the word disease,
Yeah.
because I'm not sick. I'm not a sick person. I have that virus, and I take my medication so that the virus cannot do any damage. Of course, and that's why I'm saying with it's better to stay negative. When there's a worldwide pandemic like the COVID pandemic, where I was living in New York at that time, and I was afraid that everyone's gonna die and the supply chain is gonna die down, and I'm not gonna have access to my medication. But that's how my mother felt as well, who's diabetic. Like, is she still gonna have her injections and
I know.
etc. But as I said, the
Just
thing is,
another
if you
medicine
do
to mix in
catch,
the morning.
yes, but as I said, if you do catch HIV nowadays, if you live in a country that has access to medication, you're put on medication right away. And within about 6 months, every body's individual. Within 6 months, you become undetectable. That means so little virus in your blood that it can't really be detected anymore. That is nowadays, that means it's less than 20 copies of virus in a milliliter of blood. If
Yeah.
you're newly infected and the virus is producing like crazy, could be up to in the millions. And that is one of the things where it's a little scary,
Sure.
because if you do an HIV test, most tests, the standard tests are only they still have a 3 months, like the rapid tests. I don't know about the US right now, but here in Germany, the rapid tests are 3 months to have this diagnostic window. If you do the blood test, where they draw blood, I think it's 6 weeks. But it's not like a pregnancy test. If it comes back negative, that doesn't mean you're negative now. It just means you've been negative, either, depends on the test, either 3 months, like you were negative 3 months ago or 6 weeks ago. I said, depends on the test. And if you just caught HIV, it would not show up on that test. And that is when you're highly contagious, because the virus is replicating in your
Right.
in your body. That's why we still have to remind all the younger kids that are starting to have sex now. either use a condom, or if you don't have access to a condom and you don't know that person, use PrEP. Yes, PrEP is a medication. It can have some side effects. That's why you have to get tested for liver and kidney
Yeah.
functions every 3 months. But it is an amazing alternative. And
Yeah.
if we give this to everyone who has sex, because women can use it too, it also saves women from getting HIV, or protects women from getting HIV. Because if you think about it, if we have PrEP, we know that people who are undetectable can't give HIV to anyone. They can't transmit it. You would think, why is there still HIV out there? Why is it still an issue?
Yes.
Because now with the funding cuts, now because of education, we don't reach, and especially in the States, we don't reach a lot of the times the Black and brown communities.
Correct.
There's a lot of religious things attached. um, so that's why HIV still is a thing. That's why it hasn't
Yes.
been
Yep.
eradicated yet.
Correct. Excuse me. But we're working on it, and you were such a big part of that, and I'm so thankful.
Yes.
I want to also jump now to
Thank you.
let's go to Shooting Star the musical, because I love that you. I read it on your website this morning, actually, how you said that you did not have the career to protect when it came to deciding to participate in adult entertainment. And so, where
Yeah.
was the moment you were going in West Hollywood, I assume, and probably New York as well, and wildly successful of that for obvious reasons. But at what point did you say, like, this sounds so enjoyable, lucrative, and smart for me to make this jump into adult content creation? And then what led to
uh
getting your musical off the ground?
Yeah, well, as I said, I moved to LA to become the German Brad Pitt. I was catering a lot. I booked a little bit of acting, like some acting jobs. At that time, there was still a lot of gay porn being shot in LA. Since
Yeah.
then, they left, I think, because of tax reasons. Also, if you remember that, the potential condom law that they wanted to
Yeah.
introduce, I think still like 10 years ago, something like that, it drove out the gay porn industry and they all went to Las Vegas to film there. But back then, is at 2010, 2012, when I was go-go dancing in West Hollywood, as you said, I started at Mickey's in West Hollywood.
Yes.
And I always got asked, I'm like, hey, you're already half naked, you look great. And remember, I was already in my early 40s, like I had just, or my late 30s, because I
Okay.
started shooting porn in my early 40s when I right after I turned 40. So they were like,
Really?
well, like, you have you ever thought about doing porn? And my first initial reaction was, no, I'm a real actor.
Oh.
I can't do porn, because back then, compared to now, OnlyFans, where you can hide your face and you can just show
Yeah.
your pee-pee or your butthole. Back then you had to show your whole person, and I knew it would change my life, and obviously it
Mm.
did. So it took me, I think, a year or something until I finally realized, as you just said, I don't really have an acting career that I can destroy by doing porn. I love having sex. And of course, I'm a Leo, I'm a stage whore. When studios like Titan or Lucas, when they said, we want to film with you, I was like, I can have sex with these hot guys. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, why not? I
Sign
asked
me up.
many of my friends. I even talked to my straight brother about that. I did not ask my parents back then. But it took a while. And then in 2012, I shot my first adult film. And once again, those negative feelings came, because it's not just happiness, it's also, I'm a loser, I've giving up on my dream. Some people heard of Joey Stefano, which was a famous bottom in porn back then, who died of a drug overdose in a seedy Hollywood motel room. And I was like, is this going to be my career? Are people only going to see the porn star? And then on the other hand, I had done some auditions in Hollywood before, and porn was exactly the same. It was not like that dirty business, like it was not Hollywood's dirty stepsister. It was the same kind of business as Hollywood. Like time is money. If you're a diva, you're not gonna work that often. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
show up on time, you're not gonna get any work. Um, so everything was very professional. And of course, my first question was also, hey, I am HIV positive. Can I actually film with you? And the studios that I worked with, they did you signed contracts. You signed contracts where it was clear that there's always a risk that you could catch an STI, a sexual transmitted infection. We don't call it disease anymore because it's an infection, which also includes HIV. Because the studios that I worked with, remember it was 2012, they were all condom porn. So at that time,
Yeah.
only condom porn, and now it gets a little sexual. No fluids, bodily fluids near a body. How do you say a body opening? Like no mouth and
Yeah.
no butt.
Yeah.
Um, so that, but then there's several studios like man.com back then. They did not work with
Mm.
people who were positive because some of these studios have how do you say that? Straight parent companies. Is that how you say it? Like straight, yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's just like a gay division,
Yeah.
and the studio. And if you watched straight porn, even during the AIDS epidemic, they only relied on testing. They didn't use condoms. It was a gay porn decision. Shishi LaRue was behind that, Michael Lucas, to use condoms back then. But as that the other studios relied on just testing, and when you tested positive, you were not allowed to film with them. And that was also the same thing for studios like man.com back then. I couldn't even, I told them before that I was positive, and they were like, we don't even have to test you then because we know it's going to come back positive. It's going to be a red mark and you can't film with us. So at that time, when you watched porn, you basically could tell who was positive and who was negative. And at that time, we still hid it. Like even on a set, we were not talking about it. So my scene partners didn't know that I was HIV positive because, as I said, we filmed with condoms anyways. And what I mentioned before, the Swiss study was done in 2008. That's when they found out about U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. For me, it was until 2017 that I heard, sorry, 2015 that I heard about it because it's science that took a long time for people to trust in it. So what then changed it in 2013, what I said before, is when PrEP was introduced, and that's when some studios already switched to bareback porn. I at that time still shot with condom studios because I remember back in the days. For me, it was really easy to use a condom because that's what I saw in porn. So I thought, if I'm doing bareback videos now, and countries, as I said, Germany, most of Europe, it took until 2017, 2019 until they finally were able to get PrEP affordable to an affordable price. So that's why, as I said, I stayed with condom porn. But then in 2015, when I found out about U equals U, I was living back. I moved back to New York, and there was an event of the New York Health Department where they talked about U equals U, and I cried, and I was like, that means I cannot give HIV. Like that fear of transmitting, especially if a boyfriend, if you have someone that you love, that fear was gone, and that's when I focused on this message, and I met Bruce Richmond, who is behind the U equals U campaign, and that's when I started using my porn fame to advertise, like become an HIV activist. And now I realize that I'm answering actually the wrong question, because shooting star along the way happened when I realized there is a story in it, in like being in the porn industry. And I was filming with Jesse Aris a lot, who was also a singer. And I thought, you have your own music. I used to be in a very unsuccessful boy band in Germany. Maybe we could film a porn
Wait,
scene
wait, wait,
when
wait,
we're
wait, 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 wait. We
singing.
need we need to put a pin in that and come back to
Very
that in a second.
unsuccessful.
But carry on.
Yes. So that was the idea of like, music and porn, musical and porn, maybe like an ABBA musical, like, but with Jesse's music. But then I realized that Jesse's music was just not as good as ABBA. But the idea of a musical set in the world of gay porn was born. And one
Yes.
of the things I still love about the United States is, because as I said, I've been living in the States for over 20 years now. One of the things I still love about it is that it supports crazy ideas, people like you and me that think outside the box. Because in Germany, a lot of the times it's like, oh, you didn't go to school for musical writing, like don't do it. Like
Yeah.
you're not a professional writer. You didn't learn it at school. In the US, I had people that said, "Oh, that sounds like a really great idea. You love musicals. Why don't you write it?" And I'm like, "I've never written a musical before." Well, just look online, buy some books, and do it. And that's what I did. And then I found a great composer and I found supporters. And in 2018, we had the first full reading, Broadway reading on Broadway, and found investors. And then we did it like the big shows and did an out of town tryout. And in 2019, went to LA, and did it at the Hudson Theaters, where
I remember.
Bear, the rock opera,
I
also
know.
premiered, or
I
Heathers,
know.
the musical.
Yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
so we did it there, and all of a sudden I had this dream that I had in my head, those crazy visions. They were on stage and people loved and they reacted to it. And the LA Times called us a heartwarming tale of misfits, and we were sold out for the entire run. And then I thought, oh, okay, now a producer is going to come along and it's going to take it from me because I found investors. I didn't find a producer. I had to learn how to produce a show. I'm
Hmm.
also in a lot of debt, um, to pay for everything because LA was very expensive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't find a producer. Like no one came. And then the only thing that came in 2020 was, first of all, a nomination for the Musical Theater Prize in LA, the Ovation Awards. We were
Yep.
nominated. I was nominated for
I
Best
have
Book of a New
one
Musical, which was
there.
amazing. You have an Ovation Award?
Huh?
For what?
It was The Boy from Oz at the Celebration Theater.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Hmm. Thanks. I mean, they
Yeah.
don't mean anything anymore because they're gone, but still, like, it's one of my most prized
Yes.
possessions.
I know, unfortunately, I think they didn't survive the COVID pandemic.
They had some scandals.
So yeah,
Yeah, they were,
I heard, yeah, I didn't want to bring them
yeah.
up.
Well, you know what? Don't be a bitch, and then you don't cause a scandal.
Yeah, yeah. But anyways, like I mean, as I said, as you said, like the price, it still like it meant something to us. It also like being nominated
Yes.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened, and then like nothing happened with Shooting Star. I had to find a new job because all my money was in Shooting Star in my musical.
Yeah.
So I was actually, during the pandemic, I was a caregiver for a 96-year-old woman with dementia. And her son in the 90s had died of AIDS. And that is also the story of my first play that I just finished, which is
Yes.
called Conversations with the Past, which is only those four people: the son that appears, the daughter that calls in, the little old lady, and a caregiver that's based on me, but he's British and he's younger. And of course, this is a work of fiction. Any similarity to living people is just by
Of course.
accident, as we know. Because one of the things that
Yeah.
Shooting
Yeah. Yeah.
Star
Yeah.
showed me,
Yeah.
that all these crazy ideas that I had in my head as an unhappy gay kid, that people wanted to hear those. And I also wrote a TV show concept for a TV show about AIDS coming to Germany, and I sold that to a major German production company. So first TV show concept, and I sold it, and now I just need to get all these ideas that I have in my head. Um, to paper or in the
Yes.
computer and get it out there. And that's why I actually was so impressed by your work, because I saw Queer Guru, the website, they
Uh-huh.
did a report on your movies and your work, and I was like, wow, this is someone who really inspires me. And then I think we connected on Instagram, and here I am.
Yeah. Where you are, I know. Yes. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you saying that. That's, I feel like my footprint is so small compared to yours, and so but I love
No,
like
no, no, no,
what
no.
you said was like, well, thank you, but I feel like what you said is so important because, like, I mean, you have all this lived experience, and so that's what I think is so great. And because, like, I know this show started as like a conversation on faith and sexuality, but really, like, I look at everything as art. Like, we're all creators in a sense. Sorry, my co-host, my dog,
Yeah.
needed to get down. But like, you have so much art inside you that you have to get out of your body, whether it's this play, this musical, and it speaks to the fact that what you originally sought out to do, which is create, which is to make impact, which is to tell stories. You then face these obstacles and you pivoted. You faced some more and you pivoted, and it sounds like you're right in the pocket of where your creativity is like explosive. And I just wonder, like, looking back, I mean, like, what moments, I guess, do you look back on and think, God, I wish I could go back and tell Florian or tell Hans, to pivot quicker, or to not let the obstacle hit you as hard as it did? Like, what are those moments?
Well, because you're also very creative and everything. I think like all your work bases on your own experiences, right?
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part. That means we had to go through these experiences first.
Yes.
Like I would not make my HIV infection unhappen if I could go back and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
watch out! That condom just broke. That guy who's anally penetrating you from the back, his condom just broke. Or he's gonna take off his condom and he's gonna give you HIV." I would not want to go back to that place if I could make it unhappen, because the person that I have become is because of that,
Yes.
and everything that I had to go through, in quotes, because my life, yes, there've been obstacles, but compared to other lives, I've lived a great life. Um, but as I said, every heartbreak, everything we have to go through to make these experiences. And it changed me, because when I came to Hollywood, I just wanted to be sorry to say that, like a selfish actor who lives in the Hollywood Hills and just makes a lot of money. And I had to go to into porn to realize that I can actually change the world, what I've always wanted to do. Unfortunately, I think Scientology is using that phrase, change the world one life. Like, even if you change one life, you change the world, or something like that. Um,
Well, but maybe, but they
and
also,
and
if
I've
that's what
realized
they're using,
that, yes,
they
because I
stole it
did
from
porn.
somebody.
Yeah.
They stole it. It's the quote is
From whom?
to know, it is Whitman. I think it's from Walt Whitman, and it's to know that one life is breathed easier because you have lived. That is to have succeeded, and that's actually my favorite quote. So it's so funny that you brought up the Scientology
Okay.
ripoff on that, because it's about that one
Yes.
life, and it's through your own lived
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And as I said, I had to start doing porn to do that. I had to start doing
Right.
porn to realize that I'm a writer, that I have all of these ideas in my head. And in 2014, I finally also told my parents about being HIV positive. I kept it from them for so many years. And it was so freeing. And I also told them in 2014 that I was doing porn. And I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm very happy in my life. Maybe that's not something that you're proud of, but I'm happy. Maybe you can be happy for me." And my dad said, "Hey, when you came out to us as being gay, we said we love you. You're a son. And nothing's gonna change that." And they also then said, "Your brother works in insurance. We don't really know what he does. Let's keep it the same way with your job." So they didn't want to have any specifics. But as it being so open, so all of that has changed my life. But also, shooting star, like, I put too much. I don't. Maybe you can relate to that. I put too much work and too much effort into it, that after LA, and then also after I put it up on stage in New York after the pandemic, I had a burnout, and got into uh like a total depression. I've never done drugs. I've never had experienced drugs. After New York in 23, I drank too much, and all these suicidal thoughts that I had as a gay kid came back, and I fell in this whole, and I drank too much in one night. Like I didn't become an alcoholic. It was just that one night. Unfortunately, it was in Fort Lauderdale. I drank, and my friends thought I really wanted to commit suicide, and they called the suicide hotline, and the suicide hotline says, "Oh, your friend sounds he's doing really bad. I think you have to call the police. Don't call the police on someone who might be suicidal in Florida, because three heavily armed police officers showed up and put me into handcuffs and put me in a loony bin for a few hours until they realized, oh, he's just drunk." Because I talked to my therapist about that. It was just, I wanted to have a break. I wanted to breathe. I wanted to relax. I wanted to pause. I never wanted my life to end. I was never standing there with a gun in my hand, even though I thought like, well, Florida should be really easy to buy a gun, but I'm not an American citizen yet. I'm a green card holder, so it would probably be a little bit difficult still, potentially. Yes, that thought crossed my mind, but as I said, I was never really suicidal, but those thoughts. In 24, I had an unhappy relationship, and those thoughts came back. So I don't want to say that now I'm in a happy place. Like I'm writing a show, I'm doing this musical.
Mhm.
I'm realizing the older I get that being a human being is fucking complicated, if I can say the F word. It is so complicated because this world that we grow up with, when you think you get married when you're 20, of course, to a woman, and then you have children when you're 25, and then you do the same job for the rest of your life. You never cheat on your wife. You're always going to be monogamous, and then you work until you retire, and then you retire, and then you enjoy life, and then you die. And then you grow older and you realize that all of this is man-made, and it doesn't happen like that. It is
Yeah.
life is like every day when we wake up, especially if you live a life like you and me, where we wake up in the morning, we have all these incredible possibilities, but it's also so challenging, where sometimes
Yeah.
I wish I would have a little more stability in my life. um and yes, dating has always been a challenge for me, because as RuPaul said, you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. And I think in the last year, I realized that I actually really love myself, and that I bought like last Valentine's Day, I bought myself flowers for the first time. Like that song, there's a song that sings about that,
It's
Miley.
yeah, Bruno
Um,
Mars or Miley Cyrus. I know one answers
Miley
the other, but
Cyrus.
it's about yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But
So,
Florian,
and
can
and
I
as
just
a
say too, like
yeah,
I was just gonna say, like, what you're saying to me is you're an artist. Like that, if I don't know if
yeah,
if as an artist, if you have not thought about suicide many times more than once, you're not an artist. If you have not grown up in some queer circumstance, like so many LGBTQ people acclimate to pursuing artistry. There's it's I coach a lot of actors one on one and in groups and conferences as well. But my thing is always like the job of an actor is not to book the job or to like write the show. The job of an actor, of an artist, is to protect your sensitive antenna, because you are so hyper aware of your existence in this plane, in this world, that you are so overwhelmed with stimuli 24/7. And when you figure out that that's your superpower, that is where it all unlocks. And so it's the job of us as artists is just to protect these antenna so that we can keep existing and then tell the stories about it. And that's what you're doing, Florian. That's why I'm just so in awe of you.
thank you. That and that's where I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but it's also being queer, being part of the
Yeah.
LGBTQ community. Because what is it? Isn't it, I just read that quote. Trixie Mattel, I think, said that being gay is easy until straight people make it complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
Because that's, yeah, because that's the thing. It's like the most homophobe person when I grew up was me. And as I said, I'm still working on this self-hatred, and of course, like then becoming HIV positive, where you had to be in the closet at first within the gay community, because as we know, the gay community is not always supportive, especially as I said,
No.
when you're HIV positive and you're afraid of rejection then. And then I started doing porn, another thing where people reject you. And I've learned, as you just said before, I like that. My superpower, like that's my superpower now, that I'm different, that I'm living a life that's giving me so much insights. And as I said, I really do appreciate getting older because of all these new knowledge, this new wisdom that you learn.
Yeah.
And I have good genes from my mom that I still look pretty
Clearly, yes.
good, and thanks to modern medication. That's why I always say it's
Yeah.
like, yes, better to live without the virus, but you can look as great as me. It's just positive thinking and exercise.
Oh yes.
And so and so for, and as I said, taking medication regularly. But yeah, sometimes what makes me sad, as I said, now with the political situation, where I think these young queers have to go through the same issues that we had to go through. I know you're younger than me, but um, I don't know if you can relate to that too. But like being grown up gay in a world where being gay was just not okay.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. No, it was not okay. And that's why I still
Yeah,
do this, because those kids are still sitting in those pews being told that they're not worth
yeah,
living. And
yeah.
we have to make sure we hold that space for them, and you're doing it. So what else is on? Because I know you just finished this play, which I cannot wait to see done. If it's in LA, I'm going to drive over from Palm Springs to see it, or if it's in New York when I'm there, I'm going to go there. But what else are you doing? I know you've just finished worldwide tours through your brand endorsements with You Equals You and Hans Helps. So like, what else is going on for the rest of the year with shows, with tours, with hosting, activism?
Well, I am now, as I said, in Berlin because my Hans Helps tour starts again, which is usually connected to gay brides festivities here in Germany. Because when AIDS came to Germany, we had the AIDS Helps. There's a local organizations now. They changed their names to Center for Sexual Health, but it's like a whole system, and I'm using that utilizing that system to get in touch with the individual organizations, and I say, hey, I'm porn star Hans Berlin, and I talk about life with HIV. I want to beat HIV stigma. I want to educate, and can we do this? And in 24, I was a speaker at the AIDS 2024, which is like a big AIDS convention, I guess, which happens every year. It's in Rio this year. I won't be there, unfortunately. In 24, it was in Munich. And that's when I connected with Gilead and Vive, two pharmaceutical companies that are now sponsoring my tour. So I'm doing that until September. Then I'm going back to New York, and I want to see if there's a similar system, because you just said the Desert AIDS Project, to
Mhm.
also reach out to organizations like that I can do my talks there as well. And then I'm going back to Germany in December because my parents are getting older and I want to spend Christmas with them. Even though, once again, not very religious, I like the whole
Yeah.
Santa Claus stuff about Christmas, and as I said, spending them with my parents. And then I'm currently in rewrites for Conversations with the Past, and I have a really good connection to someone who has a theater in Scotland. Um, and let's see where it's gonna go. And I'm bringing
Yes.
Shooting Star. I'm working on bringing Shooting Star to Berlin next year in 27 with its original title. The original title was Porn the Musical, and I think I'm going back to the original title and see if it's going to be easier to sell tickets here with that title.
Yeah. Is there any have you ever done any pitched that show to Palm Springs? Because the Palm Springs theater here, the theater community is like, I think would really eat that up because it gives enough of like the sexual, incitement to get butts in seats, but it also is something original and LGBTQ based.
Yes, I have, but as you know, Matt, we always need money, and so far I haven't found a producer who wanted to produce it. And I have
Yeah.
to say, like, I always fall into a hole after it. I don't know how you are with producing everything that you're producing. It's so stressful, and I want to focus
Yeah.
on writing. So yes, I would love to have it in Palm Springs. I think you guys just had what is it, Camp Morningwood?
Camp Morningwood was here. Yes.
Yes, because one
Yeah.
of my
I didn't
friends
see it,
was
but
in
it's
it,
a theater.
and he told me.
Oh, who was it?
Yes, and
Yes. Love him.
I'm blank right now.
I,
Yes,
no, we're also super close. Yeah. No, no, Florian, I feel so fortunate to have gotten this time with you. You've when you come to the West Coast here, please let me know. I would love to meet up with you, give you a hug.
same here.
I'm so glad that you're aware of the burnout now, because I mean, you from the outside you give such a brightness, but as someone who also is known for that, I also know that the people with the brightest lights often have the deepest darkness. And so I think what you've been through with your
Yeah.
mental health has made you so aware of like where you need to like put the brakes on. I hope that you find that and you give yourself the grace as you're working on all this artistry. But I also, as a fan of yours, I cannot wait to see what else you do. I'm so enamored by how you just never stop. But I hope you do again give yourself that grace to stop when you need to make sure you protect your antenna, because we need you.
Well, same to you. I mean, there's just some. I mean, I'm just getting to know all the work that you're doing, and I feel like every day I'm opening a new door, and like I find new things that you're doing. So, thank you.
Hopefully that doesn't stop. And now, like, we're in
Yes.
cahoots, and so who knows what we'll get to create someday. Like, I'm just already thinking, like,
Yeah.
because I have so many theater contacts across the country through my nonprofit work, and I'm just like, where else should this musical go? Let's see what we can do, because I think it should be done many times over.
Well, as I said, maybe some one of your listeners they want to
Yes,
produce it, they want to put money into it. We like
yes,
our website for now is shootingstarmusical.com. That's also the handle for the social media, but I'm
yes,
behind the social media and I've been really bad with it. So, but yeah, so shootingstarmusical.com, and then I have hanshelps.org
yep,
for all the HIV work that I'm doing. And in the last page, I think I showed that to you. I put like a little biography of like my story,
oh,
how Florian became Hans. And I realized
yep,
that every 10 years, my life has been changing and new adventures are coming along.
oh yes, and you're about to enter your Studio 54 year.
Yes. Yes. I like that. Thank you.
Yes. All right, Florian, thank you. Anything else you want to offer? Any tidbits of wisdom for somebody who maybe is at the crux of a career between Hollywood and adult entertainment? Is there anything you want to offer to people that grew up like you? Like any last words of wisdom?
Well, I mean, for me, very important is that the U equals U message, because it's 2026. We should know how hard it actually is to get HIV. So we
Yeah.
should treat people like normal people. If they're HIV positive, even if they're not undetectable, because you can use a condom and you can protect yourself, or use PrEP, as we said before. But yes, the U equals U message. So many people don't know about it. Undetectable equals untransmittable. Google it if you need more information. Take care of your mental health. I feel, especially as queer people, it's coming back. It's coming, like these demons that you think that that they're gone. They're actually just sleeping. They're coming back. Um,
Well, yeah.
and I believe in self love. Like, it's not nothing
Yeah.
narcissistic.
Narcissistic.
um Not like the person that is in power now, not like that, but
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with loving yourself and being proud of yourself. I think that is also one of the challenges for us queer people. And positivity, that's, I guess, like positive thinking in these dark times, being educated, being aware, and being a good person. Just whatever that
Yeah.
means to you, just be a good person.
Yeah. Florian, thank you again. I know I'm going to
Thank you.
see you in the flesh soon. I look forward to it. I appreciate you so much. I look forward to staying in touch and seeing what else you do. And I just thank you again for this time. It's been so gracious of you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for spreading all my messages.
Yes, happily will spread your messages anytime you want.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's it. And the people said, gay man, y'all come find us. We're at Fagnostic Pod on Instagram and TikTok and fagnostic.com. That's where the conversation keeps going between episodes. And if you want to find me personally, I'm at Hayes On It. The music you're hearing right now is an original composition by the incredibly talented Michael Spicer, who happens to be a friend of mine. We are so lucky to have his work as the sound of this show. So until next time, stay queerious, stay a little bit ungovernable, and I'll talk to you soon.